Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles. I'm going to talk about Japan. I'm going to talk about this law. This new policy is being proposed in Japan that there's not going to be any more interference in creative works from the West. Now, this is really interesting because the timing of this coincides with Square-Enix laying off a bunch of people in Europe and in California, and a lot of companies are getting rid of their Western liaisons, their localizers, and now Japan's like, yeah, we're done. We're done with you guys trying to change our culture. We're done with you guys trying to rewrite our stories. We're done with you guys trying to censor our art, and we're just done. We're over it, right? People want it straight from the tap. They want it straight from the source. There's no need anymore for localizers to get involved in the translation of Japanese works. I mean, we have people in Japan that are very fluent in English. We have AI assistants, and honestly, audiences would prefer a straight one-to-one translation of a lot of this stuff. Games to come over here unedited. We're definitely moving into a new era, I think, and with manga and anime exploding in popularity, studios, companies, publishers, they can't afford to piss off the audience. There's a huge demand, a huge appetite for Japanese entertainment, and this is one thing that old school anime fans like myself have been waiting for a very long time, is that we get the literal one-to-one translation over here. We don't have to worry about what they're going to change. When I was younger, I mean, there's so many bad dubs out there. There were so many dubs that they changed the entire storyline. Video games were censored. Sometimes we didn't get video games at all. And now, comparatively speaking, we're eating pretty good. We get most of what Japan puts out, but it does come over here in an altered state a lot of times. And it's not because of the market so much. It's not because of laws or whatever. It's because the translators and the localizers, for the most part, in 2025 are woke. Let's be honest. They're very progressive. They're activists, and they think some of the stuff coming out of Japan is problematic. So what's the purpose of even working for a translation company, or working for a company like Crunchyroll or whatever, if you think all of the content coming from Japan is problematic? Maybe you should find something else to do. Maybe you should put some fries in the bag or whatever. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. There's still time. You still got a few days yet until we close out Geeky's Kickstarter. It actually has officially ended, but Kickstarter lets you do late pledges. Unfortunately, you can't add to your order if you've already pledged. So we didn't hit the 15,000 for the neon pin, but thank you very much for that. But we have lots of other stuff available yet, guys, including the Geeky pin, including Clownfish pins. Check it out on Kickstarter. That's Geeky Sparkles Christmas Party Glitter Retro Enamel Pins. So yeah, let's take a look at this. This comes from Automaton, and I got from Super Sissy, who said, breaking news, Japan's government has released a new entertainment policy proposal to protect anime, manga, and gaming from censorship and political meddling from Western countries, and this will also include gaming content. Yeah, they're getting tired of it, and they're probably getting tired of hearing about it too. They go out to Twitter, and it's like every other day there's a fight about, a localizer or a studio thinking something's problematic. There's been some really egregious liberties, I think, taken with anime translations. And again, it's not because we moved beyond this. For the longest time, we moved beyond it. We basically got a straight, translation. And then in the last couple of years, again, we get these activists that are working for these companies, and they just want to put their own personal rinse on a Japanese work. They're rewriting jokes. They're taking certain things out that offend their sensibilities. And I do believe 100% this has something to do with why Square is getting rid of the people they're getting rid of. And I agree with them. I think you need to go back to being Square-Enix or Squaresoft, ideally. Let's just split those two up again, right? Anyway, it's coming from Automaton. No interference in creative works. Japanese government proposes new policy for anime and game expansion in the West. Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry proposes new policy guidelines for the Japanese content and anime industries. All right. This October, the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, METI, held its 8th Entertainment and Creative Industrial Policy Seminar, during which it proposed 5 key principles of its new policy guidelines for the Japanese content industry, including video games, anime, manga, film, and music. Yeah, again, these things are becoming more and more popular in the West, which is why activists are latching on to those industries, because it has influence. It's all about the size of the megaphone, the size of the audience. You can have one activist command a lot of unearned power by taking over, almost military style, taking over, an established IP, a brand, becoming a brand manager, becoming, what I'm saying, community manager. That's how they do this. And then they're like, oh, we're going to speak for the brand now, bigots. So as reported by Otaku Soken, the new guidelines have been announced as part of a strategy to achieve the government's goal of expanding the overseas market for domestic content to 20 trillion yen by 2033. I'm not sure what that is in US dollars. This comes only a month after the Japan Business Federation issued an urgent message calling on the government to provide immediate large-scale and long-term support for the country's content industry. So here are the 5 key principles of the entertainment and creative industries policy. 1, large-scale, long-term strategic support, okay? 2, support efforts to spread Japan-made content to the world, okay? 3, no interference in the content of creative works. Again, there are a lot of co-productions with companies like, Netflix and Warner Brothers, whatever, and they do kind of put a personal rinse, I think, on that for the West. But I think that's a huge mistake, because at that point, you're just creating content for Cartoon Network that just happens to be animated overseas. I mean, most of their stuff is animated overseas anyway, so what's the difference? You'd be surprised. Some of the animation studios that produce anime also produce Western, quote unquote, Western cartoons. A lot of it's done in Korea. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, provide direct support, prioritize those willing to take a challenge. In light of recent events, especially aggressive content restrictions and global pressure from payment processing firms, the third principle of the policy has been attracting a lot of attention in particular. As explained by METI, the government's goal is to invest in IP, human resources, and digital technology, as well as support international distribution networks and overseas investments into building fandoms. Consequently, the third principle was suggested to reassure creators that their freedom of expression will be protected and that government backing does not imply that the content of their work will be meddled with in any way. Yeah, so this is really, really interesting, because there have been a lot of complaints from Japanese creators about the West and Western sensibilities, and I wish more companies would be like, you know what, we're going to produce what we're going to produce, and you're going to like it or not. And I think what's going on is they're listening to bad advice from Western executives or Western, liaisons who are, altering the translation, right? They're doing this deliberately because they want to control the flow of spice. They want to latch on to popular IP, but they also want to change it for modern audiences or whatever. And we've seen a lot of really, high profile disasters. If you guys remember the Dragon Maid controversy, that the Funimation dub was very, very different from the subs, and they were, adding a lot of American politics to this Japanese show, and it was very, very weird. But they got busted for this, and then people were going back and they were finding other recent shows that had a lot of activism. And it's so weird because a lot of people that were involved with this show, including Jamie Marchi, I mean, they were, I believe, or maybe it was Monica Rial, I don't know, they both look the same. They blend together. But they were involved with like Ghost Stories, which is very, very not PC. A lot of the people that are calling for kinder, gentler anime now were involved in some pretty racy stuff back in the day. So, it's just weird. It's just really weird to see. And why are you in this industry? I just don't understand it, right? If you don't like the content coming out of Japan, why are you doing this? Why are you in this industry at all? Is it just the influence? You got no place else to go? It's like, I have no idea. I don't understand. I don't get it. It's just like, comic books. There are people working in the comic book industry that clearly hate the characters, and they do everything they can do to try to destroy the legacy of these characters. But, here they are 20 years later, still working in the industry. I don't get it. I have no idea. But again, I do not believe this is a coincidence that Square-Enix is firing all these people. I've been following the Reunion 7 on X. I recommend you do the same. And they were talking about, localizers getting gone. This is Yasuki Haraguchi, localization project manager in the Japanese branch, has been affected by the layoffs. He states they take into account overseas cultures and trends and even consult with the development team to change the character appearances and game content. Interesting. He states the localization division, staff from different countries, including the EU and the USA, work together in the same office, creating an environment where many different languages are spoken every day, as it's really Japan. One major difference between the localization project manager and the development team's project manager is they must communicate extensively in English and always view the game from the perspective of overseas users and markets. So this is interesting. This is where they went wrong. It used to be Japan made what they wanted to make, and they would see if they could get it into the West, and sometimes they could and sometimes they couldn't. Sometimes things would have to be changed because of, whatever broadcast standards or whatever. But that's not really the case anymore, right? The audiences are hungry for Japanese content. Look at what Square Enix has produced in the last couple of years, these huge, AAA Western titles. They've failed miserably. They've lost so much money. And I think they're listening to worm tongues that are filling Japanese executives' heads with nonsense, because the Japanese, they're trying to be respectful. Japanese culture, on the whole, tends to be fairly respectful, and they want to be respectful of the cultures of America, and they're being lied to by people in California and New York, saying basically that they speak for the rest of the country, and that could not be further from the truth, right? And I think they're starting to realize this. I mean, at the end of the day, look at the sales. Look at the sales numbers. What content are American gamers buying? And in a lot of cases, it's not the Western games that you guys are putting out. You're a Japanese company putting out Western games. You're a Japanese company watering your own product down to appease a handful of people in California, believing that they're speaking for the rest of the country, and they are not. Our country is very fragmented, right? I mean, every state is different now. Hell, even within the state, we've got the different tribes within each state. And, maybe it's because, America is not as homogenous as Japan tends to be. But, they're listening to these people. And I think that's what happened. They listened to these people for so long. They're like, oh, this is what the West wants. Look, Kotaku says, Polygon says, right? I mean, you look at ridiculous articles like this, Eurogamer. This is a couple of years ago. Persona 4 Golden has not aged well. Kanji, misogyny, and representation. This is the shit that these gaming journos churn out. So I am believing that a lot of these Japanese studios, or the executives that are boomers basically, are looking at this and being like, okay, we want to get into the Western market. This is what they expect. Let's give them the wokest possible game. Let's do a Western style game. We're gonna have a black lesbian with purple hair and a side shave. She's going to be the protagonist, and it's all going to be about social justice and blah, 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 because that's what these gaming journos are telling us they want, and that could not be further from the truth. In fact, these gaming journos, most of them do not represent actual gamers, actual customers in the U.S. It's all fake, and I think they're starting to realize that now. I believe 100% this is what's going on at Square, is they're like, yeah, we're going to fire these people because they're meddling with our creative works, and by extension, they're meddling with our profit, and nobody comes between me and my profit. So that's probably what they're thinking. They're like, yeah, actually, Square's in deep shit financially. Like, they're like, if they don't pivot hard and go back to being Square, they're gonna go under. Like, I have no doubt they're not doing that well. They really are not. Miss after miss every quarter for the last couple of years now, and most of the blame can be placed at the feet of these Western style games that they've chased, these Western studios, and listening to bad advice. So change is coming, guys. This is going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Again, a couple days yet, you can check out Geeky's Kickstarter. That's the Geeky Sparkles Retro Christmas Glitter Enamel Pins. And we'll talk to you guys later.